What's the crack, everyone? It's Nathan here, aka the Rambling Kern, and head instructor of Kern School of Combat. So today's video is something that I really wanted to cover, and I wasn't really sure how to explain the concept properly until I had a good chat with my coach Maxime of the Antrim style, and I recently did a workshop in hatchet or tomahawk, I should say, in the Bikini Tertia style, and it really solidified the points that I wanted to make. So what do I mean? Irish stick fighting is a very unique style, and a lot of people seem to just dismiss, oh, it's just another stick style, and people who haven't actually trained in Antrim style or Doyle style don't really understand a lot of the unique concepts in those stick styles. Now, I have been practicing various different stick styles for slightly over a decade now. I'm not the most experienced by any means, but I do have a good and very varied background in various different stick and weapon arts of all different types, from fencing to stick arts to unarmed martial arts. So I have a pretty good understanding of concepts and ideas behind those martial arts and kind of what makes them unique and different. Now, Irish stick fighting has a concept that is very, very different to most styles. And the reason that I brought this up with Maxime is that we were discussing how when a beginner starts using one of these for striking practice. Now, we don't use these for sparring, and only rarely will we use them for striking practice. Main reason for sparring is safety, and for everything else is mainly cost. It takes a good craftsman quite a while to make one of these, so as a result they are somewhat expensive. So it's not something that I tend to use outside of the remits of what it's what I need it to be used for. Also, ultimately it's a tool, and I view it as such, but I don't need to be consistently replacing said tools. For a lot of what I do on this channel is abusive testing, so that the viewer gets an idea of how these things work and the kind of tricks and things to understand behind them. So what I'm getting at anyway is that when you have a beginner who has not used one of these sticks in either of these styles, there are certain things that will be completely new to them. And one thing that you'll see quite a bit is people will get the forward knob of the stick and turn it around. Now, one of the reasons for this is because what happens when you strike with this knob is that it will catch on things. So think of it like a hatchet or a tomahawk or an axe. You have a forward angled point. So this is where your mass is hitting, but if you hit something, there's a very high likelihood that this part of the axe will catch on stuff. Even if you were to, as axes do, hit into something, it may catch inside it. Or if you miss something and hit with the shaft, it'll hit and then catch. The exact same thing happens when we use a shillelagh because of this forward facing knob. Now, this is something that's quite unique to shillelaghs. A lot of knob sticks, the knob is sat on top, it's circular, and doesn't have the same issue because most things will brush off of it. However, like this stick, which I think is a very good example of it, has a very forward tilted knob on it, so you have quite a high likelihood that things will catch in here. Now, as a result, a lot of people, when they're not really familiar with the styles, or are quite new to Irish stick fighting, or have a background in other styles, often they'll find it much more comfortable to hit with this backward face. However, as I've shown in previous videos and all my various different testing videos, be it with the skull analogs or the coconuts, you will not get the same amount of force if you don't angle the knob forward. Now, this is just basic physics. You've got a smaller point hitting and imparting that force directly into the target. So as a result, there are some very, very unique things that happen in both styles when you strike. Now, I'm going to show this in some videos with a student of mine, Oisin, so that you can see in real practice what I'm talking about. But essentially, one of the big differences is that you don't really have circular strikes with an Irish stick. The one thing that you'll see predominantly, now there is a handful of circular strikes. That's not to say there's none. There is some. But the majority of strikes, and the ones most commonly used, I should say, are strikes that, for example, the stick punch in the Doyle style goes out and immediately comes back on the same path. It doesn't, for example, something that you'll see in a lot of Filipino styles, it doesn't continue through and come back. Now the reason for this in a lot of Filipino styles, for example, is a lot of those people are training to use blades or swords, where the strike comes through something. So for example, a lot of Filipino styles will be based on the use of something like this, like a machete. So with something like this, the strike will cut through and then come back. The idea being there's nothing really here that's going to catch. The strike will cut through something and return back to what you need it to be used for. Now, something like a shillelagh, if that strikes through, there's a big chance that that will catch on things. This gets even more exaggerated when you're fighting a shillelagh versus another shillelagh. If both strike in circular motion, there's a likelihood that this sort of a thing can happen and they basically catch like this. And then you're in a kind of weird tugging match as to who gets the stick first. Even if it doesn't, even if it hits on the shaft here, it can catch. Now, yes, there can be certain benefits of doing that, of course, if it's something you train, like all of these things, but if you're doing these large circular strikes, that's not really something you want, because it can give your opponent a half beat to return a strike on you. Now, like I said, I'm going to show this in the upcoming footage and kind of talk about it and break it down, but this is something that is very, very important to understand when it comes to these styles of Irish stick fighting, and something that I think is very, very unique to Irish stick fighting. The styles themselves, even in Antrim, for example, say a strike to the head will come out on this line and immediately come back on the same line to bring you back to your guard. Now, there's various different reasons for this, but if you include the use of this knob, that's a very, very important factor. Again, like I said, with the stick punch, it comes out and back on that same line. It's not going through and returning back. And especially with any of our like downward strikes, which are quite common within the Antrim style, if you're not cutting through the target in that kind of downward X shape that you'll see in a lot of other stick-based martial arts, especially ones that have a background in sword arts. And the reason that I brought up the Kiri Tursha and the Tomahawk workshop is that was something that this was the first time I'd seen it, a similar striking pattern mirrored in another style, where these strikes were coming out and immediately coming back on that same path. So out and back, because with an axe, if it goes into something, if you're pulling through, it's just going to go deeper into the target and get stuck. Imagine I hit here, it's into something, it's stuck. Now, I'm going to bring up some footage of some of these techniques being done with one of my students. This is just to kind of give you some real world examples of it. I'll kind of break them down and hopefully give you guys a bit of a better understanding of what I'm talking about. So, on to that footage. Probably the most pronounced position you'll see this in is a head strike and head block. As you can see here, the sticks tend to bind quite a bit when you're doing these larger circular strikes, as you can see here. However, if we switch to our more classic Antrim in and out strikes, you'll see the difference and hear the difference. The same goes for when we are attacking someone with these strikes and being counter-attacked. One of the things with the head of the stick that will actually pull you forward because of the weight in it. So you want this rapid in and out for this strike. It's a little less pronounced when we look at our oblique shots, our shots to our inside line and outside line, mainly just due to how the stick reacts. However, when we look at it with a counter attack, it becomes a lot more pronounced and a lot easier to see. I also wanted to show this from a somewhat first person perspective, and this is where you can really see how the stick binding occurs, and you can actually even hear the sticks getting tied up on each other. Right folks, I hope you enjoyed that video. Like I said, this is something that is quite a unique thing within Irish martial arts, and I wanted to spend some time getting this video together and getting my thoughts on it so that I could convey how this works, and one of the very, very unique aspects of Irish stick fighting. So if you have any questions on that, if there's any further videos you would like to have done or to discuss, please leave a comment down below. We're closing in on 3,000 subscribers, so please, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. You can treat that as a Christmas gift to myself. If you'd like to donate to the channel, I do have a Patreon. You'll find that in the description. And if you just want to ask a question, or if you have any thoughts on the video, please do leave a comment. I try to respond to every single one. And if you're interested in classes, if you'd like to learn Irish stick fighting, I teach classes in Dublin. In Ireland, you'll be able to find those classes linked in the description. And of course, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch with me. I'm more than happy to chat to any of my wonderful supporters. So once again, thank you all for watching. I really, really do appreciate it. And slán.